us, Minister, what you're going to deliver for rural voters if re-elected.
So Fine Gael is the Party of Rural Ireland. We established the Department of Rural Affairs, and what we want to do is build on that great work and the legacy of Michael Ring and Heather Humphreys in more recent years. We will extend the Rural Regeneration Fund to €2 billion fund out to 2035, building on the really big progress that there has been with the town and village renewal schemes, the community centre funding, and all of those investments that have really reinvigorated our rural community.
At the moment, if you look at with very good farm gate prices for both beef and milk at the moment, I think a little bit of uncertainty into the future, and I think the uncertainty on the dairy side does come from the nitrates derogation. As farmers, I think we need clarity on that. I think it's probably one of the biggest issues I would see at the moment out there.
And how can you put more money back into farmers' pockets?
So putting more money back into farmers' pockets is absolutely key. Whether we talk about any of the challenges that we face in the agriculture sector, whether it's succession or keeping people on the farm in the different enterprises, it all comes back down to income. And there's a number of key steps that can address income here. Fine Gael will fight for enhanced supports to farmers, but really importantly, rather than just talking about the figures there, we have to change the structure. Our structures from a European level are too restrictive in terms of the conditionality that comes with these schemes. We have to stop and ask a question: why is there only a third of beef farmers in the beef schemes and only a half of the sheep farmers in the sheep welfare scheme? These are farmers and a cohort of farmers from an income perspective that need these schemes, but they've been voting with their feet and haven't been entering these schemes because of the conditionality that's there. So as well as driving more money into those schemes, like €300 for a cow, €30 a ewe, building on the investment in those areas, driving €60 million a year into the tillage sector, we need to look at the constraints in that system and fight as part of the next CAP for a change away from the cost incurred income forgone model, moving to a whole of farm approach, which would allow us, with the likes of acres, to have less conditionality in that space and move back to a more rep style payment that can drive more investment into farms. Obviously, a really strong resourced and powerful agri-food regulator, giving them the extra powers they need in transparency, is a key part of strengthening the farmer's position, in that their position between the processor and the retailer, making sure we have full transparency in that space and continuing to fight to open extra markets, something I've been very successful at in my time in the Department of Agriculture over the last few years.
And what would you do to bring more younger people into farming?
So, from the succession perspective, and a really big concern for farmers who led the breadth of the country, myself and my wife, we have our farm at home, which we continue to run with 4 young children. It is really important to every farming family that the farm is there as a viable option for your children to consider taking on for the next generation. It comes back to income. It comes back to that farm being able to provide that viable income and the incentives and supports to be there for the young generation to come on, recognising the role that the older farmer has to play. So when we talk about the likes of Farm Mentor scheme, it really is looking at that value that the older farmer has to offer. Unlike previous retirement schemes where the farmer would have felt like a criminal for being caught walking across the yard carrying a bucket, we want to move to a space where that farmer can mentor with the younger farmer. We will look at measures around taxation, as well as measures like there was previously on installation aid, supporting the younger farmer coming in, taking that partnership model that can really aid and support the succession piece, because we need to drive and support more younger farmers coming into the sector.
There's no farmer under 30 years of age coming on the scene. That's my biggest issue. If they don't give young farmers incentive to go back into business, we'll have a very old population in the farming community, which I hate to see. But like I say, the suckler farmer is the man that's really losing out, and the beef man. This story will be told 3 or 4 years down the road, because there won't be no colour cattle left in the country, which is a shame, because we have a lot of time for it, and hopefully the next government might do something about it. And that's what I'd be asking farmers, to ask their politicians, what will they be doing for them, especially in the beef front. That's my biggest issue I can see going forward.
And just on the track record of the last ministerial team in government in relation to agriculture, what will you do differently in relation to TB, for example, on rates and for example, acres, which a lot of farmers have not been happy about?
So the first thing that has to happen with acres is the problems that are there at present have to be addressed and fixed. Farmers need to be paid for the measures they've come in. But back to my earlier point, it is the case that, it is impossible to deliver a simpler cap and a simpler agri-environmental scheme with our current constraints of the cost incurred income for gone model. So as part, if Fine Gael was in power and if Fine Gael had control of the Department of Agriculture, it will be in the next all, it will be a key time where that Minister for Agriculture will have the presidency of the EU in the second half of 2026, a critical, a pivotal moment when the next CAP is being negotiated and agreed upon. At that point, Fine Gael would be fighting and using our position as a party in the EPP, the European People's Party, to fight for a change in that model, to allow us more flexibility to be able to take a whole farm approach to the supports that are there for farmers. You mentioned TB, a really significant issue. For me in South Kildare and on the border with West Wicklow, there was a really significant issue there with deer. In most parts of the country, we have a really significant challenge with badgers. It is really obvious the current TB programme has to be, the TB eradication programme has to be reviewed. It is not working at present, numbers are going in the wrong direction, and our management of wildlife as part of that approach is key. It is absolutely key in how we address this, and the current approach isn't working.
How important do you believe the nitrates derogation is for Irish farmers?
The nitrates derogation is absolutely vital, but not just for farmers, and not just for the 7,000 farmers that are in derogation, but for all of the other farmers that could be impacted, like our tillage sector and other sectors about land availability, the issue of succession, and can younger farmers get access to more land at an affordable price. The nitrates directive impacts on all of that. But also if you look at the spend and the multiplier effect that farmers have in their local communities, the value of the dairy industry and that derogation and the ability of our farmers to make a profit is absolutely critical to rural Ireland and the rural communities in which they're in. That's why Fine Gael would have it as a top priority to fight for, to protect, to retain the nitrates derogation. We have that derogation in Ireland for a very good reason, because our farming system is different to other European countries. I think the future of farming is bright. There is no doubt that agriculture has gone through a period of massive change. There's no doubt in my mind that in the future we will be farming differently than we have done in the past. But that's been a process of evolution since I was a boy and since before that time, and when my father was farming here in South Kildare. Again, the same will be in the future. We will adopt, we will roll with the changes, if you like, because farmers are extremely resilient.
I think definitely introducing more schemes that are based around agri-environment and anything that way would be very important, as well as possibly putting a floor under the price they receive at the end of the day, that they would have a little bit more control over what the final price is, and at least that way farmers can guarantee that they are receiving the value for what their products are.